Hello and welcome back to D6 Wounds. Today I'm going to give you 3 battle reports of my experience at a casual one-day event at Darkfire Cafe in St Albans. A little bit of a different scene for me, first time going to a one-day event. They had no painting requirement there and was encouraging new players to come in with a sort of casual atmosphere. But I knew a couple of people who are going who are by no means casual, and I'm sure there would be some funky lists there, so I was keen to see how my army, which I've taken to a couple of GTs already, would fare in a different environment. I've made a couple of changes to the list. Well, one change really, because it's just my general who had previously equipped with the Bedazzling Helm and the Effigy of Morg for that tasty -2 to hit in close combat. And I've scrapped his magic items there and instead given him the Dead-Hard armor and the Trollhide trousers. So he's still very tanky. He's got a 2-up save with a 5-up regen, and he's also toughness 6. So he's going to be pretty hard to take down. But instead of having that -2 hit, I've got a bit of a different combo on him. I've also given him a Charm Shield because I had 5 points to spare. Not that he'll need that in combat because he's got a great weapon, but who knows, he might be on his own at some point, and if he takes a cannonball to the face, he'll get 3 saving throws instead of 2. And the rest of the list is pretty much exactly the same as I've been running in my last few games. So Rag the Despoiler is riding with Adura, the Orc Big Boss BSB, on a Warboar with the Banner of Butchery and the glowy green amulet. They're in a big bus of 18 Warboy Begans this time with all of the upgrades. Another Orc War Boss, Rob, and Wyvern, Ogreblade, Talisman of Protection. Festus the Odd Knob is still on the Law of the War, and Law of the War has done me good so far, so I'm not changing that. With the Idol of Gork, Power Scroll, and a Dispel Scroll. And then the rest of the list is unchanged, right? So I've got 3 Orc Chariots, one of them with the upgrades, the Frenzy and the 3 crew. I've got 4 Goblin Wolf Chariots and 2 Snotling Pump Wagons. So it's game 1, and I'm up against Dan's Warriors of Chaos. And it's quite a shooty list. Not what I'm used to, actually. I'm used to the kind of hard as nails, hard-hitting Warriors of Chaos army that comes at you fast, which I've actually had quite a good success rate so far against that type of list with the Nomadic War, simply because I've got loads of units, so I'm able to throw away these light chariots as chaff and tie up any of these dragon ogres or monsters and knights and stuff that are hard hitting but don't fly, and so I can just move a chariot in front of them and I'm able to take out their main units one by one with my Boar Boy Death Star. But this is very different. So it's Demon Prince of Nurgle with the Ogre Blade Spell Familiar on Demonology, right? So he's got the whole Demonology deck pretty much, and the Armour of Meteoric Iron, so it's got a 5-up, 4-up, 5-up. So going to be hard to take down this Demon Prince, and he's very killy as well. There's 3 level 2 sorcerers, each of those sorcerers in a block of 13 Warriors of Tzeentch, right? So they're all kind of like level 3 casters, all on battle magic. So he's going to have, fireballs, the blue fire of Tzeentch, pillars of fire, all this this magic flying around. So I'm guessing it's not going to come towards me that much. With the exception of the 2 units of 3 Dragon Ogres that are there on the flanks, as you can see. Crossing the board is going to be a bit tricky here, because I'm going to be relying on my glowy green amulet to protect my main unit from the blue fire of Tzeentch, which could be pretty nasty. Likewise for the fireball spell, although my armor saves can help protect against that one as well. And then I need a bit of luck dispelling these pillars of fire. I have on a previous battle report lost my shaman to a pillar of fire, so I'm going to be quite wary of where I put my shaman. And well, I'll see. I mean, if after turn 1 there's lots of templates on the board, then I'm going to just whack him in the unit straight away. But I don't want him in the unit, right? Because I can't call a war if there's a goblin in the unit. And of course, I want him outside the unit so I can recast my Evil Sun Shining spell to get the rerolls, right? I need the war for the rerolls, or the Evil Suns for the rerolls. Either way, I can't have the goblin in the unit to get the rerolls. So, and I may need that to kill a Demon Prince, right? Because that's going to be the main issue for me in this game, I think. The Demon Prince is initiative 7, so even if my boards get the charge, they're still striking last. And he's going to take off a bunch of my front rank before I get to hit. If I get one of my spells off, I should be alright. It doesn't even matter which spell, right? Because the Evil Suns will give me the reroll ones to hit. The Bad Moon and the Itchy Nuisance each drop his initiative, right? So if I can drop his initiative by 2, brilliant, because then I'll strike first with a bunch of Strength 6 attacks. Even though I drop it by 1, we'll attack at the same time, which gives me a fighting chance. And I've got a bit of static res on top, so I should be able to pop that Demon Prince. But apart from the Ball Boy charge, what do I have that can combat that Demon Prince? I've got my Warboss on Wyvern, and I've got the Ogre Blade as well, right? And the Warboss is initiative 5, so if I charge in at initiative 8, I will get the chance to kill him with my Ogre Blade before he kills me with his Ogre Blade. But he's got 3 saving throws, and I've only got 2 and a very weak armor save at that. So, yeah, it's going to be tricky. So at this event, they're using the square-based terrain maps, which are basically preset map arrangements where you basically have a dice off with your opponent, and then you can choose which map you use. I guess it saves time on, saves arguments and stuff. Not that you generally get arguments about terrain at the beginning of the game, but I suppose it's just cleaner to have a dice off and pick a map. I win that roll off and end up just choosing the one where the buildings are the most out of the way, because basically I just want my boars to have lots of space to maneuver around the board without knocking into some impassable terrain. But I then lose the roll off for first turn, and Dan gives me first turn, which caught me off guard, actually. I wasn't expecting that. Because obviously, as a nomadic war list, what I want to do is just charge forward as quickly as possible, put on loads of pressure, and aim for that turn 2 charge, right? And he's got a shooty list. But I suppose from his point of view, he's thinking, well, my magic missiles are currently out of range, and why sort of have a fairly insignificant first turn where I'm just like not really doing much, and he probably doesn't want to advance with his Demon Prince and Dragon Ogres. He probably just wants to stay back, hit me with loads of spells, and then have a counterpunch with those Dragon Ogres, right? So instead of having a first turn where he's not really doing much, he might be able to put out a few templates in the middle of the table, but then I can have a think about it, put my Shaman in the unit, try and go around them. He's probably thinking, well, instead of having an insignificant first turn, let's just put that turn in my back pocket and save it for later. However, from my point of view, I'm thinking, okay, this is quite good now, because his casters are all sort of fairly central. He's got 4 casters, I've only got 1, but if I can get my Shaman to the middle of the table, I'm going to sort of be within 24 inches of all or most of his casters. So that's what I'm going to be aiming for after turn 1, just to get my wizard up the table so I can actually have a chance of dispelling the barrage of magic that's going to be coming my way. So I move forward with everything quickly as possible, and we move on to Warriors turn 1. Now, he moves that Demon Prince up onto the hill, so he's got now a big line of sight over the battlefield. I then take a big gulp as Dan lays out about 10 cards in front of him, right? So he's basically got the whole of the Demonology and the Battle Magic deck. But I do have the Green Amulet. However, the first fireball he fires at my boars, I roll a 1 and the Green Amulet explodes. I mean, come on, man. I could have at least dispelled something with the Green Amulet. This is the game where I need the Green Amulet, and it explodes straight away. So I thought, wow, what a start to the game. But luckily, we survived the onslaught with some good saving throws, against the blue fire and the fireball. I only lose 4 ball boys to all these magic missiles. Now, obviously, that's 4 ball boys, but out of a unit of 18, you're 20, including the characters, I think that's pretty good. He fails to cast one of the Pillars of Fire, and I use my Dispel Scroll to make sure the next Pillar of Fire is dispelled. So there's no templates on the table at the end of Warriors turn 1, which I'm very happy with. Orcs turn 2, and we call a war with the Warboss and charge straight into that Demon Prince. The Warboss on Wyvern also declares a charge into the Warriors on the left, and I have a Goblin Chariot on the right that fails its Impetuous test and has to charge into something. Doesn't want to charge straight into those Dragon Ogres, but instead declares a charge on the Warriors on the right. And that Goblin Chariot fails its charge, but the Warband comes in clutch, and I make it in with the Boars and the Wyvern on the reroll. Fantastic news. I move up with everything else, so the chariots that were coming in to maybe get a charge off in turn 3. I also send one of my Goblin Chariots to chaff those Dragon Ogres in the left. I don't want them charging into the flank of my Wyvern on Chaos turn, because it's likely, the Wyvern could win combat against those warriors, but they're likely to just feed me the champion in a challenge, and so that combat's likely to rumble on for a little bit. and I don't want that Wyvern getting charged in the flank by a bunch of Dragon Ogres. So we move on to this very tense fight in the middle. Can my boars overcome this Nurgle Demon Prince of Doom? The Demon Prince swings first at initiative 7, right? Doesn't issue a challenge, and neither do I. Now, I think he's made the right call there, because I don't want to call a challenge, but if he were to call one, I'd probably accept with my war boss, try and tank the damage and win on combat res. But it also suits me if there's no challenge at all, because then obviously I get more attacks. The Demon Prince swings first, however. Now this is the issue. The Demon Prince hacks up 3 of my big uns, which leaves me without a rank bonus. So I've only got 3 in the back rank now. Now I swing back with a shed load of attacks and -1 to hit, and he makes a bunch of saving throws with his 5 up, 4 up, 5 up. But I managed to sneak through 2 wounds, and that proves clutch, because I've got my big red raggedy flag, I've got my banner BSB, and I'm close order, and he ends up popping on the combat res, and the demon is banished back to the immortal plane to rot in Nurgle's filth. Big moment in turn 2 there. So the boars overrun into that next block of warriors in the middle. Rob on the Wyvern wins combat against the warriors on the left, and they give ground. So yeah, excellent turn 2 for the orcs. And what's best about it is that they've only got 1 of their spellcasters free in Chaos turn 2, right? Because 1 spellcaster's dead and 2 of them are in combat, and so there's only 1 Chaos sorcerer free for the next round. Chaos turn 2. Now they are currently with a bit of a dilemma in the middle of the board now, because they've got this unit of Chaos Warriors on the right. They've only got 1 wizard in that unit that is free to cast, but they've also got a flank charge against my main unit. And do they charge in and then can't do anything in the magic phase? Oh, sorry, in the magic phase. Just can't cast any of their spells, or do they stay free and are able to, cast magic missiles and stuff at some of my chariots? And in the end, they decide to charge. They've also got more charges happening, so the Dragon Ogre units each delete a Goblin chariot on the flanks, one of them on the right, overrunning then into my Snotling Pump Wagon. The combat with the Wyvern continues, and the Wyvern fluffs its attacks. My war boss sort of misses and ends up losing combat against the Chaos Warriors due to their rank and their banner, and the Wyvern gives ground. And in the middle then, I only lose a couple of boars to the charge from the Chaos Warriors. My war boss slays a bunch of the warriors to the front with his great weapon, and both of the warrior units fall back in good order. I then reform my boars to face the larger unit that charged me in the flank, because I've got other orc chariots waiting to go into the unit in the centre, so I'm happy to show my rear to that unit because it's my turn next. Orcs turn 3, so I get the itchy nuisance off on the Dragon Ogres on the left as they look for a charge into my Wyvern. The boars charge into the warriors on the right. I lose a couple of boars to the Chaos Warriors, but ultimately crushing them and catching the curs as they get stuck in front of that building. My frenzied chariot goes careering into the already thinned out unit of warriors in the middle, ploughing through a bunch of them and chasing them down towards the end of the table. My other orc chariot that's gone into combat to help my Wyvern, the impact hits, swinging things in my favour, and then follows up into them, while my Wyvern restrains to face down the inevitable Dragon Ogre charge on the left. Fortunately, my Wyvern is built for Dragon Ogres, right? Because the war boss is initiative 5 with the Ogre Blade, and when those Dragon Ogres charge in with great weapons, they're only going to be initiative 4. So I'm hoping to kill 1 or 2 of them before they get to swing. One of my Goblin chariots fails impetuous into the Dragon Ogres on the right side, and I chaff them up with another Goblin chariot. I'm happy to feed Dragon Ogres Goblins, right? Just feed them Goblins. If I can get the boars charge in, then I should be able to take out those Dragon Ogres. And yeah, so we move on to Chaos turn 3. So really things sort of start to unravel in turn 3 for the Chaos. So they're kind of paralysed now. The Dragon Ogres are cut down by my Wyvern, and they flee, and the Wyvern pursues. And then the Dragon Ogres on the right-hand side are only able to sort of kill one chariot and then kill another chariot before the boars charge them down in turn 4, and then it's all over. So yeah, what a start, man. First game of the tournament, getting off to a big win. Getting that turn 2 charge was just big, right? Turn 2 was just big for the Nomadic War. Got a bit of luck, of course, turn 1, dispelling those pillars of fire, because they would have slowed down my charge in addition to, doing some damage. I thought it was all going wrong after losing the green amulet to the first spell, but it turned out to be all good. Was it a mistake to give me first turn? Possibly, we'll never know. As a nomadic war, obviously I want first turn, especially against a shooting list, so I can just put pressure on straight away. But then again, things could have gone differently in the magic phase if he'd got some of those templates off. It's a strong list for sure. I think my list has the tools for that, especially the glowy green amulet. It wouldn't or shouldn't blow up on the first turn, so I should be able to survive a hail of magic missiles with that poor boy star, and of course the fact that I just had a lot more units than the chaos, so I've got lots of goblin units that I can throw away, which just really helps control the board. And those chaos warrior blocks, they can't really avoid anything for heavy cavalry, right? They've just got to wait until I charge them and try and kill me before I get there. So yeah, started the tournament with a big win, and now I suppose I'm going to reach my comeuppance as I go on to one of the higher tables to face someone else who got a big win in their game 1. So this is game 2. I'm up against Edward's Bretonnians, and it's Exiles again. I've got a bit of experience playing Exiles, and they are one of the strongest builds, I think, for Bretonnians. And he's got 2 Bombards and a Trebuchet in the list as well, and I think it just works really well with the hard-hitting knights and characters on Pegasus, in addition to having the war machines, right? And I've got a lightly armoured war boss on Wyvern, who just won't be able to handle double Great Cannon and Trebuchet. So I'm going to have to hide him, I think. So he's got a Baron on Royal Pegasus with the Frontier Axe, this kind of cheap ogre blade. Gauntlet of the Duel, so you can't refuse challenges against him. The Falcon Horn, obviously, and the Virtue of Knightly Temper, which is like more attacks on the charge. So he's really deadly. He's got the Green Knight, and he's got 2 Outcast Wizards, both on level 3, Demonology, with the Prayer Icon, Vortex of Chaos, Summoning, and Demonic Vessel with the spells, and the other one's on Battle Magic with the Ruby Ring. So he's got and the Law Familiar. So he's got all the fireballs, and Arcane Urgency. There's 26 Yeoman Guard. There's 2 Lances of Knights of the Realm, 10 Bowmen skirmishing, 4 Pegasus Knights with Vanguard. And of course the Baron is going to deploy with those Pegasus Knights and with that Vanguard mood, so that's a bit scary. So the Bretonnians get first turn, which I'm not entirely displeased about, because the Pegasus don't Vanguard forward, so I know there's not going to be a turn 1 charge, at least not from them. But then the Green Knight comes on, right? And the Green Knight is very much alone if he wants to charge on turn 1. Yes, he could try and assassinate one of my light chariots, but I suspect what he really wants is to get involved with that Boar Boy unit, because I don't have any magical attacks on that Boar Boy unit. And of course the Brets can blow the horn to stop my Wyvern from catching the Green Knight with his Ogre Blade. However, they've got an instant decision to make, right? Because, right at the beginning of turn 1, because my static res on my Boar Boys is about +5. I've got the Red Raggedy Flag, Banner, BSB, a rank, etc. So he's reliant on doing some wounds in order to stay alive, because he's unstable, right? He could get a potential flank charge, but he's likely to take some wounds and give ground. So it could just be a waste of time. And I've got my magic missile, which, so he could just lose, and he could just throw away his Green Knight if he decides to charge into my Boar Boys. In the end, he kind of positions him in front of the Boars, like inviting the charge, but not actually standing in their way. So not sure if he wants me to take the bait or not, but I think perhaps sort of affected by a bit of indecision there on what to do with the Green Knight. There's almost no other movement from the Bretonnians, apart from, turning their lances a little bit, repositioning the wizards so they could be in dispel range of my Shaman. The shooting takes off 3 of my Boar Boys from a Trebuchet and cannon hit, and that's the end of Brett's turn 1. Orcs turn 1, and my games against Bretonnians are often like this, where they kind of begin very slowly, and it's a bit cagey at the beginning of the game. I wasn't annoyed that I didn't get first turn, because I'm not sure whether this army's coming at me or whether they're going to wait till I go to them and try and hit me with some magic and some artillery shots. I don't take the bait for the Green Knight, and I just surge forward with everything, right? So the balls just go straight past the Green Knight and ignore him. I don't know at the time whether that's the best thing to do. I got Goblin Chariots surging up the right-hand side as well to within charge range of those cannons on the hill. And let's see if he wants to take the bait and try and protect his cannons. My Frenzied Chariot as well. The Green Knight's on the other side of the woods, and my Frenzied Chariot doesn't have to charge into the Green Knight, so my chariots can just move up as well. And then I just throw things back to the Bretts. Brett's turn 2, so he blows the horn again, off it goes, and then he just declares a big charge with everything, right? So he's got the Pegasus Knights with the Baron, 1 unit of Knights of the Realm, and the Green Knight in the rear, all charging my boar boys. We countercharge. The boars can take most things head on, but having this nasty Baron with the crazy magic item option, with the Knightly Temper and the Green Knight in the rear, it complicates things a bit. I really don't know how this combat is going to go, and I don't think Edward does either. The other Knights of the Realm unit charges across to the right to one of the Goblin Chariots, right, hoping to sort of protect the bombards from being charged. Now, the first Goblin Chariot just flees, and then the Knights of the Realm fail the quite long charge into the second one, which leaves them kind of side on to my lines. In the shooting phase, one of the bombards just explodes. Good news for me. The other bombard doesn't really have any juicy targets, but takes a couple of wounds off one of my chariots. They also get the summoning off from the Demonology Outcast Wizard, takes out another Goblin Chariot. There's a few bow shots into the wind, and then we move on to the big combat. So here we go. The Baron doesn't declare a challenge, which is probably a good call. I was trying to think about what would have happened, right? So I could have accepted with my War Boss. I mean, he's got a nasty combo. So he's got plus D3 attacks, hatred. He's got this Frontier Axe, multi-wound 2, right? But he'd be like hitting me on 4s with rerolls, and then he's like, I'm toughness 6, yeah. So he's wounding me on 4s, and then I've got a 5-up, 5-up. So he might not get. He only needs 2 wounds because he's multi-wounds 2. So he might have just scalped my War Boss straight away. Maybe he should have called a challenge. The problem is, if he doesn't, then I'm fighting back with my War Boss with a great weapon. I'm weapon skill 7 because of the big red flag, so I'm hitting him on 3s, and then I'm wounding him on like 2s, rerolling 1s. So yeah, and then I probably kill him. So maybe he made the right decision not calling a challenge. Anyway, he's in base to base with my BSB. So the Baron wants my BSB, and that's exactly what he does. He just slays my BSB straight away. I lose 5 boars to the charge, but we're all striking at the same time, right? At initiative 6, because everybody's charged. And so I cut down a bunch of knights. I kill 5 Knights of the Realm, 2 Pegasus, and I end up winning combat by 3. And everything falls back in good order, including this Green Knight in my rear. And that was a big moment. I haven't got any more points from that because I haven't wiped out any units. Although that Knights of the Realm unit is just down to the champion now, or the standard bearer, whoever's left. And obviously his Pegasus Knight unit is severely weakened. But the Baron is still at large. The Green Knight is still alive. But it feels like a big swing to the Orcs. Orcs turn 2. So, as I said, points-wise, I'm down because I've lost my BSB and a couple of chariots, but it feels like there's been a bit of a swing to me because my main unit is still very much intact, and the main units of the Bretonnians have been damaged, and of course they've lost their stubborn ability now. I get the Itchy Nuisance off on the Pegasus, and the Baron is now dropped down to Toughness 2 and Initiative 3, which should deter him from charging in again, right? Because, whether I get the charge or not, I'm still winning him on 2s with Strength 4, so we'll see what he decides to do. Now, with my Orcs, with my boars, I decide to just plough into their unfortunately placed Outcast Wizard, who is a sort of mere speed bump between careering into the side of the next Knights of the Realm unit. Now, of course, she could have fled the combat, But then what happens is I might just go through those Knights of the Realm into the Pegasus Knights, and of course he wants to keep his general free to charge something in his turn, right? So he doesn't flee with the wizard, and she is sacrificed. My Frenzied Chariot has to charge the Green Knight, which is not ideal because I can't actually harm the Green Knight. But I do have a trick up my sleeve because I can cast the Vindictive Glare into combat, and I am hoping to try and take out that Green Knight because the Green Knight's already lost a couple of wounds. The lone Goblin Chariot that fled before rallies and comes back to put pressure on that cannon again. My Shaman just sort of flees the battle line now because it's getting dangerous in the middle of the table. We've got this Green Knight still at large. We've got these marauding Pegasi flying about. It's a bit dangerous for a lone Shaman now. So he sort of comes back. I don't have the Evil Sun's buff anyway, so he's better off hanging back and casting the Vindictive Glare spell. My Orc Chariot, that's exactly what he does, right? And he takes out the Green Knight. So that finishes him off. He'll probably come back to life, but we'll see. And then my Orc Chariots just advance a bit more. They want to just cover the rear of my boars in case the pegs decide to just fly over the top. And my Wyvern is on foot because he can't fly, but just trying to also cover the rear there in case something comes over the top. Brett's turn 3, and the Green Knight fails to appear, so that's good news. And now what will the Pegasus do? It's a bit risky for them to charge in because they've got the Itchy Nuisance on them at the moment. Flying over the top could invite some countercharges by chariots and stuff. In the end, they go for that Goblin Chariot on the top right there, which is threatening the Bombard behind the Yeoman. I guess they want to save that Bombard from a charge on my turn. They've got a round of shooting they can do this turn, of course, which is interesting because it kind of leaves my Boar Boys free now to kill the Knights of the Realm, which they do because they're already in combat with, and then charge again on my turn into the cannon or the trebuchet or whatever. The Yeoman march forward in the face of my other Orc Chariot on the right, too close for that chariot to get the impact hits. The lone Knights of the Realm that had survived and fell back after being charged now moves west to try and preserve points for that unit. Cannonball screams through the air and snaps 3 wounds off the Wyvern. Yeah, bit of a mistake maybe coming out of hiding just yet, while there's still trebuchet and cannons around. The remaining Outcast Wizard doesn't have too much to target, and ends up just blasting a pump wagon in a ball of fire. So in combat, the Pegasus make short work of the Goblin Chariot and then reform. So Orc's turn 3, and things are sort of poised in the balance here. I charge in with the boars again, this time into the trebuchet, trample it down, and reform to face the cannon and the Pegasus Knights. Of course, those Pegasus Knights won't be there come my next turn, but we're up in their back lines now. The Orc Chariot in front of the Yeoman fails Impetuous, and so has to charge in. Too close for the impact hits, but I am, of course, charging in with spears and stuff, and with the first charge rule and toughness 5, it means I'm still in with a chance to win combat round 1, but then probably likely to break and flee in the next turn. The Yeomen do lose narrowly and give ground. The question is, can I get another chariot into that combat in the next round and try and get some points for these Yeoman Guard? I've got 2 other Orc Chariots in the middle of the board who are keeping their options open at the moment, but of course they've got no chance of charging those Pegasus Knights, but it all depends on what the Bretonnians do on their turn. My Wyvern just goes back into hiding because he can't fly and he's not going to survive another cannon shot. Well, I mean he might, but he needs to play it safe now. And I don't know where that Green Knight is going to reappear anyway. The Shaman, though, I do get a bit of luck. So my Shaman snipes the lone Knights of the Realm champion who's running away with the Vindictive Glare, right? Because I've got a 24-inch range on the Vindictive Glare with my Idol of Gork. So great to grab the points for that unit. And we move on to Brett's 4. Brett's turn 4. So we've been playing too slowly, and the TOs inform us that the clock is ticking, and this is the last turn. Peg Knights charge an Orc Chariot in the middle of the board that flees, and the Green Knight reappears this time in the Brett's deployment zone, and charges the other Orc chariot. Now, the Pegs and the Baron pursue this chariot. The chariot gets away, but they do this kind of long charge into the middle of the table. On the shooting phase, then, the wizard fireballs the boars twice, and the archers, still lurking in the woods, pepper them with some arrows. I also take a grape shot to the face and lose around 7 to 8 boar boys in a lethal round of shooting. And I'm now under 25%, right, for the points giveaway. So a chunk of points go to the Bretts now. The yeomen lose combat. The yeomen lose a couple of troops, but they win combat because they've got their ranks and their standard bearer and stuff. Break my Orc chariot, who flees. The Green Knight just remains in combat with the Orc chariot. Minimal damage done there, but the game is kind of finely balanced. Again, it's really, really close, this game. I honestly don't know what the points are at the moment, but I'm thinking it's around a draw as we go into the final turn. So on the Orc's turn, I managed to get the Here We Go spell off, and my Wyvern is able to declare a charge into the Pegs and the Baron for a last Hail Mary. It's interesting because he still can't fly, right? But he does have the Swift Stride roll, and now he's got the Here We Go spell off. So he can make a fairly good charge. I also get the Itchy Nuisance off on them because they're near to my Shaman now as well, and I drop their toughness and their initiative. The Boar Boys charge the cannon to try and get revenge for their fallen comrades. The Pegs and the Baron decide to flee the Wyvern charge, and they end up getting run down by this Wyvern who's charging up the middle of the table on foot. And then there's a big swing to the Orcs on the final turn. Now, we did have a bit of confusion because Ed was under the assumption that the previous turn was the last one. But of course, Brett's got first turn, and I was under the assumption that we'd play an equal number of turns for both sides, right? So it's fair, and we kind of, we're under time pressure here, and when you're under pressure, you make mistakes. Would Ed have decided to flee that charge if he had more time to think about it, or would he have decided to just redirect his charge after I fled with the Orc chariot initially? We don't know, but it was it was really close all the way through, and then the Wyvern on foot manages to charge down the Bretonnian general at the end there, and that was a kind of big swing to the Orcs. So I don't have the scores in front of me, but it finished with quite a lot of points to me, and that puts me up on table 1 for the last game of the event, and I am within touching distance now of a podium position. I am up on table 1, and I'm facing off against David's Dwarf Expeditionary Force. He's rocking Burlock Daminson, the engineer, and 3 regular engineers, so there's 4 engineers in total. A Thane with the bursting flame combo on the handgun, a Runesmith with 2 runes of spellbreaking. He's then got 11 Thunderers, 2 units of 10 Rangers, 2 Scout Copters, 2 regular Copters, 2 Beer Carts, 3 Cannons, and 3 Organ Guns. So it's a pure gun line versus my pure rush list. Okay, so he's got 0 combat units and I've got 0 shooting units. So yeah, it's going to be real chalk and cheese. It's going to be a game of fine margins, lots of measuring and umming and ahhing about what's going to be the best move, at least from my perspective. The mission is breakpoint, right? So if you get down to within 25% of your total army unit strength, then you meet your breakpoint and the victor takes all the spoils. It's likely to be either a big win and I end up with a podium position at the end of the day, or it'll be a big loss and I'll probably drop out of the top 3. So you can see the deployment there, very shady deployment with loads of war machines, engineers and Thane with the handgun all in the back left corner. The Thunderers and the Runesmith and one of the pony carts are on the back edge, but more in the central to the right. Gyrocopters on the flanks. The Rangers all drop using the scout rule on the left hand side, just sort of over 2 inches from the board edge. So they're going to be peppering me with arrows from that side. But basically, because he deploys his war machines all at once, I'm able to deploy my main unit, after he deploys his army. So basically, I just want to try and rush that back line to where the war machines are and the engineers and his general and the Thane, hoping to get some points that way. Now, is that the best decision? I don't know. Honestly, I suppose my first time really coming across a pure shooting list in Warhammer: The Old World. I mean, I've come across dwarves and wood elves and armies that are shooting armies, but nothing like this where you're thinking, well, what do I point my army at? Where are the points? They're literally going to stay at the backboard edge and wait for me to rush forward. My rough strategy is to screen the boars with my light chariots to give the boars hard cover as I'm moving up. I did consider sort of changing formation with the boars, maybe putting them in a line or whatever, but it doesn't really matter that much. The dwarves aren't really going anywhere. It's just, can I make it across the board? I'm going to lose my back rank of boars anyway as they come in. Will there be any left to actually get off a charge in turn 2 or 3? I left my general purposely out of the unit. He's got a higher toughness and save than his unit, so I think I'll just keep him close to the unit, and then when it comes to the chance to declare a charge, hopefully he can declare a charge onto a different unit than my actual boar boys. I'm keeping my shaman out of the unit for now, but I'll probably put him into the unit after turn 1 or 2, especially if those gyrocopters are trying to come round the back. So I win the roll off the first turn, and I let out a roar of joy. It kind of felt like I've won the game already, just getting that roll off the first turn, because at least I suppose I'm in with a fighting chance now to try and cross the board across a hail of bullets. So this is the expeditionary force, right? So what that means is that all of his war machines can move and shoot. So he'll be able to reposition his organ guns and his cannons to make sure he gets the maximum output with them. And if I get too close, he might even be able to move towards me and then get off the grape shot, right? So it's really going to be touch and go as to whether any of my boars are alive at all by the time I get there. Of course, I do take turn 1 anyway. I surge forward with everything. I am 15 inches on the board, right? Because the breakpoint, I am slightly further up the board, but it's still a long way to go because everything's just on the backboard edge for him. I suppose he's not really worried about getting pushed off the board when I charge him. He just wants to have as much shooting as possible and just delete my army before I get there. So you can't really fault that strategy on this matchup. Would have been great to have a meeting engagement matchup where I'm really close. You might get scouts behind you on that matchup, but at least I can just go forward and kill stuff pretty quickly. But the way things happen, I move forward as fast as possible as I can with everything, but I'm still unlikely to get a turn 2 charge, so it's going to be 2 rounds of shooting, whatever happens, before I get to grips with this army. I keep the Wyvern back, with those 3 cannons, and even the Thunderers and stuff, they've got the Runesmith in the unit, so if he rolls 6s to wound, and he needs 6s to wound the Wyvern, but if he does roll 6 to wound, it's then like AP4 or something. So, I've just got to hide the Wyvern. There's no point. I've got to save the points for him. He won't make it to the other side of the board, at least not yet. So, Dwarf's turn 1, here it comes. I lose the 3 chariots that are chaffing up, not chaffing up, that are sort of screening my boars to cannonballs. I lose half the unit of boars to the organ guns and the Thane. With all these engineers there, it means he never misfires, basically. So nothing's going wrong. I lose the chariots on the left-hand side as well. I just taking a deep breath and being like, okay, don't worry, this is the plan. Just get into combat. Once I'm in combat, then it should get a little bit easier. Orc's turn 2 then, so I'm moving in again a bit closer, close enough so that I can guarantee charges on turn 3. The war boss is sort of hiding now behind the building on the left-hand side, so he's blocked off from all the war machines, but he can look at the rangers and get a charge into those rangers. Those rangers don't want to be too far back, because if they're too far back, I can push them off the board if I win combat. and he's toughness 6 with a 2-up save, so he should be fine against all the crossbow shots. And yeah, the idea is just to send the war boss into the Rangers and hopefully survive the organ guns again to get some boars into the war machines. So on Dwarf's turn 2, the shooting is actually not as good as it was on turn 1, which is surprising because he's in short range with more stuff. But just the organ guns roll quite low, and he did actually roll a double misfire on one of them. So despite the reroll, he still ends up misfiring. I make some saves against the cannonballs, and my orc chariots lose some wounds to the thunderers, but not enough to actually take out those 2 orc chariots coming up the right hand side. So at this point of the game, I've lost 3 goblin chariots, I've lost a snotting pump wagon, I've lost one of my orc chariots, I've lost tons of boar boys. But it looks like I'm going to get some charges off on turn 3. I was holding my breath throughout the whole of Dwarf's turn 2, just thinking he's just going to delete my whole army. And with this scenario, with the breakpoint, anyway. So turn 3 to the orcs. So we charge in with everything. I don't charge in with the odd knob. Now, this turned out to be a mistake because I was kind of umming and ahhing about it. Like, will the Goblin Shaman be safer in combat? Yes, he will be safer, but he's toughness 4 with 3 wounds, but he's got nothing. He's just a goblin, right? So he's going to die. He might die to a dwarf crew, So in the end, I didn't charge him in. He probably should have done because he ends up getting gunned down by gyrocopter bullets. So I've sort of needlessly thrown him away, but. Anyway, I get a few of the boars in who begin sort of chewing through war machines and making overruns, right, into pony carts and engineers and things. And my war boss makes it into the Rangers, chops down a few and makes them give ground onto the backboard edge. My orc chariots smash into the thunderers on the right-hand side, and they also give ground onto the backboard edge. So I'm making progress. Dwarf's turn 3. Now, I forgot to mention last turn my Wyvern came out of hiding, trying to get up the board there, but it's probably too late really to have an effect on the game. We continue to win some combat. So the pony cart charged in to help the Thunderers in combat with the Orc chariots, but they lose combat again because we'd followed up, smashing into those Thunderers, and the Orc chariots force the Thunderers off the board, and the cart falls back in good order. My war boss, my general, kills some more Rangers as well, forces them off the board, and manages to stay on the board himself, which is crucial because I might get a charge off on the other unit of Rangers next turn. Meanwhile, the Dwarves are, shooting off my last Goblin chariot, and I'm left very close to breaking point now. It's really touch and go at this point. But after this turn, having forced those Thunderers off and forced those Rangers off, the Dwarves are close to breaking point too, and it looks like it's all going to be over after turn 4. But to which side is it going to fall? So it's Orc's turn 4, and I get off another couple of charges. So the last few boar boys charge another war machine, trample it down. The Orc chariot on the right charges the pony cart, because I managed to reform last turn, crush it under the spiky wheels. My war boss charges into the second line of Rangers in the flank. Now this could be crucial, right, because there could be enough unit strength in there to give me the win if I manage to break it this turn. Unfortunately, the Orc war boss, despite chopping up a few of them and winning combat, they pass their leadership test and they only give ground. Now, had I broken them there and run them down, that could have won me the game. I didn't do the maths at the time because obviously I didn't break them, but that I think was a crucial combat. And then we move on to Dwarf's turn 4, and this is the sort of the last hail of bullets now, crunch time in this breakpoint scenario, and they take out the last of my snotling pump wagons with a cannon shot, and it's all over. I'm at my breaking point. Rog the Despoiler doesn't manage to defeat that unit of Rangers fully in the combat phase, and the Dwarves take all the spoils. They take all the VPs. Obviously, I've picked up a few VPs from killing some units here and there, but it turns out to be a big win for the Dwarves. And that's the end of the game and the end of the event. David played a good game, and he ends up winning the event and coming first with the Dwarf Expeditionary Force. So congrats to him. It was an enjoyable game. It was two very different armies, right? A rush list versus a complete gun line. And I'm kind of looking at this thinking, I've got newfound respect now for the expeditionary force. I'm currently painting up a dwarf army myself. I mean, I have a dwarf army, but I find what worked for 8th edition doesn't work for for the old world. So I'm sort of painting up some new models to field a very different type of army. But I kind of need some combat capability, like having he doesn't. I mean, he didn't even have great weapons on his Thunderers and Rangers, right? So he really has nothing that can fight in combat. I mean, Burlock and a Thane are both, a Thane with a handgun. There was nothing really that could fight in combat. And so I think with a different scenario, I think over 6 turns, I think I grind it out. And a different list, I think, if I had, for example, a Black Orc War Boss with a 2 up, 5 up, 5 up, and I can just zip up the board and take the bullets, and then fly into something on turn 2, I think that wins me the game as well. But would have, could have, should have. It's who knows, right? But obviously, I do have newfound respect for the expeditionary force. I like the scout gyros with the clatter guns. I think they're very tasty, and being able to move and shoot with the Thunderers as well. Although not as useful for this game because I'm coming at you full speed, but that could be potentially very good as well, especially as you've got an engineer in the unit. They can reroll the ones to hit. Yeah, so it was good to, I suppose, give a wrap up of the event as a whole. If you've seen my last couple of battle reports against the Chaos and the Brets and the Dwarfs, good to meet some new faces and play some new types of game. I've probably played enough for now with the Nomadic War. It's super enjoyable, and I'll definitely come back to them for Warhammer the Old World because they're just so much fun to play with. But as much as I keep trying different list combos with the list builder, I can't think of sort of a totally different way of playing them that would, I suppose, persuade me to spend lots of time with the Nomadic War for now. I think I'll try a different list next time, whether it's the Dwarves or whether it's a different Orc and Goblin army, we'll see. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the series. Give us a like and subscribe if you've new to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one.